Chapter 13. Stuck. Randy stood paralyzed behind the bedroom door and listened as McCarthy's keys hit a table with a jingly thud. Crooks, McCarthy muttered to himself. Think they got me right where they want me? Well, I'll show them. Randy heard Bunny pat into the living room. There's my girl. McCarthy sounded as if his mood had suddenly lightened. He whistled as he walked toward the kitchen. Is my pretty little bunny ready for her lunch? He asked, speaking baby talk to the dog. Randy could hear the hum of an electric can opener and the refrigerator door open and close. Then she detected the unmistakable sounds of Bunny wolfing down her lunch and McCarthy stomping back down the hall. Randy's heart pounded wildly in her ears, growing louder with every second. Ka-thump, 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 ka-thump. How am I going to get out of here? She thought, her brow misting with sweat. Fear stabbed at her insides. Ka-thump, ka-thump, ka-thump. Her heartbeat kept time with the approaching footsteps. Ka-thump, ka-thump, ka-thump. At the very last moment, right before McCarthy entered the room where she was hiding, Randy crawled under the bed, barely squeezing herself between dusty old hat boxes and suitcases. It felt like her heart was about to thump right out of her chest when the bedroom door swung open. Bunny bounded into the room, sniffing the floor where Randy had been standing. McCarthy sat on the bed and took off his shoes. Oh, sweet Virginia, he moaned. I do wish you were still here. These sure are troubled times. I never knew there could be such mendacity in this world. First, Randy wondered if someone else had come into the room. Then she realized he was talking to the photo of his dead wife on the nightstand. Bunny hopped up on the bed to offer some comfort, but McCarthy pushed her back off again. Whoa, Bunny, you smell plumb awful. Why do I have to keep telling you not to tangle with that skunk? Rosebud gets the better of you every time. And then the unthinkable happened. McCarthy stretched, yawned, and lay across the bed for a nap. Terrible day, and it's going to be another long night. My old body can't take much more of this punishment, he grumbled, and then he was still. Bunny trotted over to the door and lay down against it. With her face buried in her paws, she too fell asleep. You've got to be kidding me, Randy thought. That dog's never going to let me leave without waking up the old man. She waited until McCarthy's breathing became rhythmic. Then she started to crawl out from beneath the bed. Stop right there, trespassers, McCarthy yelled. Randy froze. The mattress springs creaked as he shifted his weight in the bed above. Somehow she'd been caught. Then McCarthy snored. Thieves! He yelled in his sleep, then went right back to snoring. Randy sighed with relief and tried again to crawl out of her hiding place. Unfortunately, this time she couldn't move. The mattress had sagged under McCarthy's weight and pinned her to the floor. She was stuck. The only thing she could do was wait as the minutes slowly ticked by on her watch. Hoping for a little more breathing space, Randy pushed an old box to the side. The bottom of the mattress swept a layer of dust off the top of the box and right into Randy's face. She pinched her nostrils, hoping that the particles would soon settle, but the damage was done. The dust had already tickled her nose. Tears welled up in Randy's eyes as the explosion came closer and closer to the surface. She held her breath to stifle a cough in the back of her throat, but the sneeze was coming, and it was coming fast. Ah! She choked it back. Ah! The sneeze was pushing its way through. What could she do? Achoo! Randy finally exploded. Her blood turned cold with fear. She'd literally blown her cover. She expected McCarthy to drag her from her hiding place. Soon it would all be over. She put her head to the floor and swallowed hard, trying not to throw up. She had failed. She was no Glen Street. Not even close. Now she would probably be sent to jail. Glen Street had sent lots of people to prison for breaking and entering, and every time she locked another bad guy away, she'd whisper her catchphrase. Game over, loser. Now Randy was the loser. Bless you, Bunny, McCarthy mumbled just as the doorbell rang. Dad, nabbit, he growled, pulling himself up to answer the door. Finally free, Randy slid out from beneath the bed and stealthily made her way across the room toward the hall. The doorbell rang again, and Randy froze. I'm coming, McCarthy grumbled, and opened the door. Randy peeked out of the bedroom and saw DC waiting nervously on the front porch. Hi, Mr. McCarthy. What do you want, boy? McCarthy demanded. While McCarthy's back was turned toward her, Randy stepped out into the hall and caught DC's attention. He stood frozen, his mouth agape. If he'd had an excuse for ringing the bell, he seemed to have already forgotten it. So Randy did her best to help him out. First, she pretended to pant like a dog. Then she walked like a person with a leash in one hand. I said, what do you want? McCarthy stormed. To go for a walk? DC said, confused by Randy's performance. Boy, I'll ask you one more time. What is it you want? McCarthy growled. I was wondering if you needed Randy threw her hands in disgust. DC wasn't very good at playing charades. While McCarthy's eyes drilled holes into the boy, Randy heard another set of footsteps coming up the front stairs. DC was still stammering when Pudge appeared beside him. What? He started to ask, but Pudge put a hand on his shoulder. The boy locked eyes with Randy, who repeated her pantomime performance. Pudge understood. While he talked, Randy began inching backward toward the house's rear door. We're starting our own dog walking business, sir, Pudge told Angus McCarthy. And we were wondering if you might need Your daddy know you're friends with this here juvenile delinquent? Angus asked the boy. He invited me to be part of his business. I think my dad will be proud when he hears. Dog walking? McCarthy harumphed. Likely story. Tell your friends to stay off my property and away from my dog, or he'll be sorry he was ever born. McCarthy slammed the front door just as Randy slipped out the back. Whew! That was close, Randy told the two boys as they all made their way toward the road. Thanks, Pudge. Yeah, thanks, DC added. But sorry about the sporting at the bank. Forget about it, Pudge said. What were you guys doing at McCarthy's house? Randy and DC shared a glance. That's confidential, DC said. How'd you know I needed help anyway? Randy asked. I was riding by and heard McCarthy shouting. Pudge paused to pick up the bike he'd left on the side of the road. Riding? Randy asked suspiciously. Where were you going? That's confidential, Pudge replied with a grin. And then he hopped on the bike and rode off in the direction of town. Strange kid, DC said as they watched Pudge ride away. Yep, Randy agreed. Maybe he's not as bad as I thought, DC added. Randy nodded. I say we investigate as soon as we've solved the capsule case. By the way, I owe you a thank you, too. I was trapped under the bed before you rang the bell. Sorry, I didn't get the dog walking clue, DC said. Did you find anything while you were in the house, inside the house? Plenty. First of all, McCarthy's not the worst man in the world. He misses his wife, and he's really sweet to his dog. Also, he might be the guy you kicked in the cabin, but I'm starting to think that he might not have been the ghost. I saw looking at me through the window. I found a pair of his boots in the closet, and they're a lot bigger than the boot prints we picked up at the cabin. What about the time capsule? DC asked. Nope. Didn't see any sign of the capsule. I did come across an old diary that belonged to Toot McCarthy. I think he might have found the treasure right before he disappeared. Did the diary say where it is? No, looked like Toot might have drawn a treasure map, but it had been ripped out of the book. Probably a long time ago. So no capsule and no treasure, DC moaned. We're right back where we started. Just then, Sheriff Ogle rode past them and stopped in front of McCarthy's house. Mayor Landers was sitting in the passenger seat of the cruiser. He stayed put while Sheriff Ogle got out and walked up the steps of McCarthy's front porch. Do you think she finally got the search warrant? Randy asked. They snuck back just in time to hear McCarthy open the door and shout angrily, "I said I wasn't." "Excuse me?" Sheriff Ogle said, taken aback. "Oh, it's you. I thought it was those kids again. What do you want, Mildred?" The sheriff stared down at her feet. "I'm sure you've heard the rumors going round town, Angus. Folks seem to think you had something to do with the capsule disappearing. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have enough evidence to request a search warrant, so I'm just going to ask you to let me come in and have a look around your house. If you don't have the capsule, I give you my word that your name will be cleared of all suspicion." "I'm just going to ask." Randy shook her head. "I'll give you my word? Could Deer Creek Sheriff get any more pathetic?" "Don't matter if you find the capsule or not, Mildred. We both know folks still say what they want. They laughed at my daddy, and now they're pointing their fingers at me. But I'm going to have the last laugh. Mildred, you just wait and see." Then he slammed the door in her face. "Did you hear that?" DC groaned. "It's over." "No, it's not," Randy insisted. "Go home and ask your mom if you can sleep at my house tonight, and I'll ask my dad if I can stay the night at your place." "What are you cooking up?" DC asked, kicking the gravel on the side of the road. "Phase 3 of our plan," said Randy, hoping she'd have enough time to come up with one.